Good day, everyone. So, the topic for today's discussion is about the spiritual self. So, what comes to your mind if you hear the word spiritual self? So, the spiritual self develops through interaction, observation, and imitation. The family, school, and church play a very important role in a child's spiritual development. So, kung unsay naandan sa atong parents na practices is mopoy big influence sa anak, right? Mopoy atong ginasunod kung unsa na unsa na religion, unsa na practices ang nakasanayan. Spirituality begins at an early age but develops throughout life as people continuously interact in the environment. So, okay, basically it's socialization. So, asa na-derive ang term nga spirituality? Okay, so the root meaning of spirituality is taken from the Latin word spiritus, meaning breath or life force. So, take note na lang po. Next one is Quiet the Mind and the Soul Will Speak by Ma Jayasati Bhagavati. Emphasize the importance of inner silence and meditation for spiritual growth. When the mind is calm and free from distraction, a person becomes more receptive to their deeper thoughts, feelings, and intuitive wisdom. This approach is commonly embraced in different spiritual traditions that encourage reflection, mindfulness, and meditation as a way to connect with the inner self and experience personal insight or spiritual awakening. Spiritual versus religious. Spiritual is defined as relating to or affecting the human spirit or soul as opposed to material or physical things. Religion takes the approach of fear, it emphasizes sin, guilt, and the concept of a punishing God. The spiritual approach to God is through the path of love. Often, religion talks of God who is high up in the heavens. At times, God is depicted as separate from humanity, who is impartial but impersonal. So, religion and spirituality are both paths to God. However, they are different in their approaches. So, naay religious person o spiritual person. A religious person is someone who believes in a God or group of gods and consciously adheres to the beliefs of her religion. So, kaning religious person, mo gining grabe ka devoted sa iyang gituuhan. Then, ang isa naman is a spiritual person. On the other hand, places little importance on beliefs and tradition and is more concerned with growing and experiencing the divine. So, ang spiritual person naman kay focuses on a personal individual journey of inner peace, self-discovery, and connection with a higher power or the universe. Ang spiritual person may embrace all religion or wala. Depende sa iya ha. Depende sa iya kung i-priority ba niyang maging active sa iyang gituuhan, like mo na ang mga spiritual person. Unlike sa religious person na grabe jud ka devoted sa iyang gituohan. Why is spirituality important? Sense of meaningless and lack of purpose in life can be significant factors in causing anxiety, depression, and phobias. However, there is a growing body of evidence indicating that spiritual practices are associated with better health and well-being. Nganong importante man jud ang spirituality? Spirituality is important because it helps individuals overcome stress, anxiety, and hardships by fostering calmness, hope, and compassion through practices like meditation, prayer, and self-reflection. And it's also encourage personal growth, self-discipline, and ethical conduct, leading to a more fulfilling and resilient life. And contemplative practice is good for students like us. Contemplative practice can be broadly understood as a method to develop concentration, deepen understanding and insight, and cultivate awareness and compassion. These practices can have a profound impact on students' experiences both in college and beyond. And these are the examples of contemplative practices. Again, contemplative practice is good for students like us. Number one is meditation. Mental exercise such as focusing on one's breathing or repeating a mantra. For the purpose of reaching a heightened level of spiritual awareness, it can induce feelings of calm and clear-headedness as well as improve concentration and attention. So, example of exercises is inhale and exhale. So, makatabang ni para ma-clear ang atong mind, makapanguna-una tagtarong. Prayer, a spiritual communion with God or an object of worship, as in supplication, thanksgiving, adoration, or confession. Prayers may elicit a relaxation response along with feelings of hope, gratitude, and compassion, all of which have a positive effect on overall well being. There are several types of prayers, many of which are rooted in the belief that there is a higher power that has some level of influence over life. This belief can provide a sense of comfort and support in difficult times. A recent study found out that clinically depressed adults who believed their prayers were heard by God or a concerned presence responded much better to treatment than those who did not believe. Prayer, people nurture their spiritual lives, find meaning, and sustain hope and resilience across diverse beliefs and practices. Yoga, a Hindu spiritual and ascetic discipline in Hindu theistic philosophy, it teaches the suppression of all mind and body activity so that the self may realize its distinction from the material world and attain liberation. In Western culture, yoga is a system of physical posture, breathing techniques, and sometimes meditation to promote physical and emotional well-being. So when we do yoga exercise, may help improve sleep quality and enhance mental clarity, focus, and concentration. Mentally, yoga promotes stress reduction by calming the mind, which helps manage anxiety and depression. Last one is journaling. Journaling is another but often overlooked contemplative practice that can help you become more aware of your inner life and feel more connected to your experience and the world around you. Studies shows that writing during difficult times may help you find meaning in life's challenges and help you become more resilient in face of obstacles. So, napoy ang uban, no, during pag-stress na sila, ang ilang ginabuhat is magsulat. Mo lang pamaagi para ma-express ang ilang gibati. Moving on, the practice of religion, belief in supernatural being and power. So, what is supernatural? A supernatural order is the original and fundamental source of all that exists. It defines the limits of what may be known. Something that is supernatural is above, beyond, or transcendent to the natural world. When we say supernatural, it is attribute to some force beyond scientific understanding or the law of nature. So, para mas masabtan, it is synonymous with the terms paranormal, magical, mystical, and so on. Morning mga bagay nga lisod i-explain sa siyensya katong mga mysterious na kaayo na dili na normal na panghitabo. So we call it supernatural. And let's talk about us, our beliefs in the supernatural. So Filipino believe in the supernatural, right? Labaw na itong mga ancestors, mabtikon kayo mag-share about experience nila before. So as Filipino, na itong mga kasanayan, every 1st and 2nd of November is considered as one of the most important holidays in the Philippines, as this is when we all trip there in a cemetery to visit our loved ones who have passed on. Of course, we all know naman that these 2 days are non-working holidays. And what And what usually happens pag nagkita-kita mo sa imong mga kaparentihan is, 'di ba, like as bonding ninyo that during that time is mag-share mo sa scary stories or mag-share mo about experience ninyo before with your ancestor, 'di ba? Like mo na ang isa sa mga example sa practices na to, nakasanayan na to as Filipino. Religion is defined as the belief in the worship of a superhuman controlling power, especially a personal god or gods, according in Oxford University Press 2017. It is also a particular system or faith and worship, according in University of Minnesota Human Rights Center 2003-2016. More than its belief in practices, religion is an experience. Religion, however, may best be understood as a systematic attribution of human characteristics or behavior to a god, animal, or object. Read anthropomorphism. One reason humans attribute human characteristics to some entities is that the world is huge, ambiguous, and we need to interpret it the best possible way we can. So what is anthropomorphism? Anthropomorphism is the act of attributing human characteristics, emotion, or behaviors to non-human entities such as animals, objects, or supernatural beings. For example, if a story describe a dog talking, showing jealousy, or making decision like a human, that's anthropomorphism. In religion, God or spirits are often given human forms or personalities to make them more relatable and understandable to people. Kaning gagamit sila word para maka-relate pod kita. Pero sa anthropomorphism is ginagamit po ni sa tula, mga ning ana, like sa kanta, like kanang unbelievable na kaayo na mahitabo ba? Like familiar 'di ba ta sa kanta na susungkitin ang mga bituin. So that's impossible, right? So behind that naapod na meaning ana para lang makuha o mapaibig mo siya, right? Then let's move on. The psychology behind religious belief. A 1990 research conducted by Stephen Race, Professor Emeritus of Psychology at The Ohio State University, posited a theory on why people are attracted to religion. Religion, he said, attracts so many followers because it satisfies all 16 basic desires that humans shared. The 16 Striving for God 2016. According to Race, the 16 basic desires that humans share are acceptance, curiosity, eating, family, honor, idealism, independence, order, physical activity, power, romance, saving, social contact, status, tranquility, and vengeance. So, number one is acceptance, the need to feel approved or valued by others. And number two is curiosity, the drive to learn, seek new experiences, and understand the world. And number three is eating, the basic motivation related to food and nourishment. Number four is the desire of family, the desire for a close relationship with relatives, bonding, and caregiving. Number five is honor, the urge to act with loyalty, uphold values, and fulfill obligation to groups or traditions. Number six is idealism, the pursuit of justice, fairness, or making the world better. Number seven is independence, the need for autonomy, self-direction, and control over one's own life. Number eight is order, the preference for structure, organization, and predictability. Number nine is physical activity, the inclination toward movement, exercise, or engaging the body. Number 10 is power, the urge to influence, lead, or achieve social status and authority. Number 11 is romance, the desire for sexual intimacy and attraction. Number 12 is saving, the motivation to collect, save, or retain resources. Number 13 is social contact, the crave for friends, social interactions, and belonging to groups. Number 14, status, the need for respect, admiration, or higher rank in society. Number 15, tranquility, the wish for safety, relaxation, and peace, avoiding stress or danger. Mo ng tranquility. And last one is vengeance, the the drive for justice or retaliation against perceived injustice. So, kaning murag panimalos. Reyes added that all religious beliefs and practices are designed to meet the 16 desires. Religious beliefs provide people with certain ways of thinking to help them cope with ultimate questions that cannot be explained in any other way. So that's all my part.
The four dimension of religion. So the four dimension of religion, this is incredible amount of variation between the different religions, make it challenges to decide upon a concrete definition of religion that applies to all of them. Sociologists noted for the dimensions that seem to be present in varying forms and intensities in all type of religions according to Dawson and Tyson 2014. So they are the four dimension of religion, which is number one, beliefs, number two, ritual, spiritual experience, and unique social form of community. So ayon dito, may napansin ng mga sociology na may iba't ibang uri ng mga relihiyon. Ito ay ang apat na relihiyong dimension, which is the belief, ritual, spiritual experience, and unique social form of community. Number one is beliefs. Beliefs are the generalized system of ideas and values that shape how members of religious group come to understand the world around them. Beliefs rather are the generalized system of ideas or values. So they are the number one, beliefs. The beliefs is are the generalized system of ideas and values that shape how members of religious group come to understand the world around them. So ang beliefs is ang ating mga paniniwala. Example sa una na ay daw tao sa parang dako nga kahoy, that is the beliefs. Imong mga pagtuo. Rituals is are the repeated physical gestures or activities such as prayer and mantras used to reinforce religious teachings, elicit spiritual feelings, and prepare worshippers with a higher power. Example, sa ritual is kanang kalag-kalag. So the number three is the spiritual experience. So the spiritual experience or feeling immediate connection with higher power from this point of view. Religion is not so much about thinking a certain way. For example, is a formal belief system is about feeding certain ways. Spiritual experience is mo ni siya ang kanang sample na kay naagian nga sana nagkalisod ka, tapos imo day na siyang giampo, tapos nabalikan ka og maayo tungod sa imong pagampo. So mao ni siya ang sample sa spiritual experience. So na kay na experience ka mga dautan, so imo day siyang ginaampo. So through your prayer mong nahawa gamay. So the number four is the unique social form of community. So the social form of community, Emil Durkheim or 1950-1964 emphasized that religious beliefs and practices unite in one single community called church. And here are the social of dimension that religion share according to Dawson and Tyson 2014. So early religions gains credibility when agreed and shared by a group. It is the easier to believe on something if other around you or whom you respect believe it as well. A religion provides an authority that deals specifically with social or moral issues, proper behaviors, which establishes that normative basis of community, and religious again is act as an of social control and is supports the development of self-control, which are the vital elements of functional society. And places of religion worship function as social hubs within communities, providing a source of entertainment, socialization, and support. So they are the religious classification, what, who is divine, and example. So the religious classification is polytheism. So the polytheism and the multiple gods. So the multiple gods is the beliefs in many gods. So dagan siya mga dagan siya Ginoo. Na diri each the good usually has a special role. For example, God of war, God of love. So ano siya ang example. So there the example Hinduism and ancient Greeks, ancient Romans. So the Hinduism is mo siyang nagtuo sa like Vishom, Shaiva, Lakshmaya. And the ancient Greeks is yung ginatuuan is Zeus, Athena, Apollo. Ang ancient Romans is yung ginoo is Jupiter, Venus. So the monotheism is belief in the God who is the creators and rule of everything. So naadiri ang Christianity, God, Islam, ang ilang Ginoo is Allah, ang Judaism is Yahweh. So the antheism is belief that there are no God, wala sila Ginoo, or divine being focuses on human reason or science instead of religion. So mo sila ang human atanin kan ilarang kaugalingon ilang ginatuuhan. So naadiri ang antheism, non-belief, wala pay ulay pagtuo. Buddhism focus on enlightenment rather than gods. Hinduism focus on harmony and nature, not creator of God. Last is animism. Belief that spirit exists and nature and animals, object, everything has a spiritual essence. Muna siyang indigenous nature worship. Shinto believes in a spirit called Kamian, Japan. So they are the major of religions. So the number one, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, and Buddhism. So the Judaism is encompasses the religion, philosophy, and culture of the Jewish people. It is characterized by the beliefs in one transcendent God who has revealed himself to Abraham, Moses, and Hebrew prophets, and by a religious life is accordance with the scriptures and rabbinic tradition. So they are the sacred text and Torah. Christianity as an Abrahamic monotheistic religion based on the life and teaching of Jesus Christ, who served as the focal point of the Christian faith for Christians, the word of God writing in the Bible. So ang Judaismo ay nanatiling tapat ang mga Hudyo sa mga aral ng Torah at Tanakh na nagnalaman ng mga aklat ng mga propeta at hari. So for example, this is ang mga Hudyo di ay nanatili silang nanalangin sa sigyo at pinaliwanag ang mga banal na araw tulad ng Sabat, araw ng paghinga. So that is example of Judaism. At pista ng pag-alis sa Ehipto. So ang Judaismo ay naniniwala sila na isa ang kapangyarihan ng Diyos at nagpapakita sa propetang sina Abraham at Moses at iba pa. Trivia is Judaism is the oldest of the Abrahamic religions that the predecessor are Christianity and Islam. Jews remain faithful to the writings on the Torah, which was believed to have been handed to Moses on Mtisinia, and the Tanakh, the books of the prophets, the king, and some other religious writing. So the trivia is ang Kristiyano ay may pinakamalaking relihiyon sa buong mundo na may humigit kumulang 2.1 bilyong tagasunod. So they are the example of trivia. Ang mga Kristiyano ay nagsisimba tuwing linggo at nagdiriwang ng Pasko, kapanganakan ni Jesus, at Pasko ng pagkabuhay or muling pagkabuhay ni Jesus. Sumuo ni ilang mga tinuuan, no? The interesting Hinduism facts. So the world of Hindu organized from the Indian, Indo, or river. There are more than 1 billion flowers of Hinduism in the world today. Next is Hinduism is not single religion, rather in the practice by many different religion group from the India. The most of Hinduism's sacred texts were written in Sanskrit in the ancient times. In the oldest ancient sacred texts of Hinduism are called the Vedas, or Veda means knowledge. So the Vedas include the Rigveda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, and Atharva Veda. Hinduism, considered the world's oldest religion, is still commonly practices Hinduism, common beliefs, philosophy, and the culture practices in here. So the interesting Hinduism facts is ito ang salitang Islam. Nangahulugang pasuko o pagtalaga sa kalooban ng Diyos. So mauni siya ang Hindu organized from the Indian of river. Mauni ilang mga tinuruan. Or ang ugat ng salita ng Islam ay salam, na ibig sabihin ay kapayapaan. So ang Islam di ay iyang meaning is kapayapaan. So ang Muslim ay yung nagpasakop sa tunay na kalooban ng Diyos upang makamit ang kapayapaan. So muna sila ang interesting Hinduism facts. So they are the interesting Buddhism facts. So Buddha is also known as the Enlightened One or the Kind One. So when Buddha was 35, meditated under the fig tree, the Buddha tree for several days until attained enlightenment. So Buddha spent the rest of his life teaching his followers or in the northeastern Indian subcontinent the path of our kind. So Buddha lived the age of 80. He died in Kushinagar, India in 483 BC. So Buddhism refers to the teaching of Gautama Buddha or originally of follower of the Hindu faith, experiencing enlightenment or buddhi while sitting under the tree. So ang mga Buddhista ay nagmimeditate upang makamit ang kapayapaan at kalinawagan ng isipan. Sila ay sumusunod sa Four Noble Truth or 4 na dakilang katotohanan at Eightfold Path or 8 daang ng kabutihan.
The concept of dungan. Dungan means spirit and soul. In pre-colonial Philippines, our ancestors look up to the Babaylan described as a priestess or shaman. A Babaylan act as a healer, spiritual leader, and medium that Babaylan perform rituals through chants or prayers for spiritual intervention to drive spirits that cause illness or misfortune. A babaylan is usually a woman, but there were some men were babaylans too. Male babaylans, however, were said to have feminine traits. So, ingon siya, kuan ko no, ang the babaylans in the pre-colonial Philippines is a spiritual leaders and also a healer on illness that cause of the spirit. The Babaylans explores the world of animism. Animism is an attribution of a soul and to plants, animate objects, and natural phenomena. Animism means is the belief that soul exists outside sa tong body and transferring between body, persisting after death as a ghost. And the concept that all animate creatures possess life force. How dungan and ginhawa difference? Alicia P. Magos, an anthropologist and professor emerita of University of the Philippine Visayan, made in a preparing study on primeval Visayan concept of dungan. According to Magos, dungan was a life force, an energy, as well as literal entity of life. And ginhawa was a vital force that occupies the body and refers to as the breath of life, responsible the heart ability to beat, and a person if ang mamatay if ang tao mamatay kuno, ginhawa will leaves the body. So, I mean, if ang ginhawa mawala, ang tao kuno kay mamatay. In essence, both dungan and ginhawa are vital force. Ginhawa sustain the body physical function like breathing and heartbeat, while dungan embodies the conscious, intellectual, and emotional aspect of a person. So next is, what is difference between the soul and spirit of man? The soul and spirit are the two primary material aspects ascribed to humanity. There are different shades meaning between idea of the soul and idea of the spirit, from culture to culture and religion to religion. Here is the brief general overview of the difference between soul and spirit. First is etymology. Old English for soul was called soul. That meant that spiritual and emotional part of a person animate to existence. And spirit is directly from Latin word spiritus, meaning breath, respiration, breath of God, and those inspiration or breath of life. Second is biblical belief. Soul refers to the conscious, the moral, and thinking part of a person, which is immortal and goes to heaven, hell, or purgatory after death. And spirit refers to the Holy Spirit, part of a Trinity, the force of God through blessing. Spiritual growth is associated with developing faith. In Western culture, soul can often be taken to someone moral consciousness. For example, a cruel killer could be said to have no soul, and the spirit may refers to ghosts or supernatural beings believed to be souls of those dead unfinished business. Eastern culture, soul is the part of the person that has a dharma, or as we know, karma, and some of this action affecting future existence. In spirit, nature and star spirits are common in Taoism. Sentio emphasized the shamanism. Confucianism tolerate the recognition of animistic spirit and deities. Soul is a set of emotion, will, and intellect, often seen as a sense of an individual's personality linked to the physical body and individual's life. And in some belief, it's moral and can cause to exist with the body death. And the spirit, the life force that animates the body and connected to the divine or higher power, and seen as a immortal transcending physical existence, that the part of person that can connect with the spiritual realm. Next is the soul according to some ethno-linguistic group of the Philippines. First is Linhawa, or the soul of the dead, by the Ifugao. Next is Kadua, Isnig. The soul is called Kadua, believed to reside in a realm called Aglalanawan after death, and cross upon via spirit piloted ferry. And next is Kankaniay. The Kankaniay in another member of Ifugao Igorot, of the Igorot people, believes that the human person is composed of a of the physical body, and the abiik, or called ababiik, is mean soul. Ababiik is a ritual that allow the spirit to return on, and allow the soul to return. Next is kaluluwa. Kaluluwa is the Tagalog people's concept of soul. However, it refers to more to the soul of the deceased. Deceased, the soul of living, the soul of living person is called kakambal, which leave the physical body at night. And if na kunoy mahitabo sa imuhang kuan, sa imong kakambal, or sa imong kuan kaluluwa, kuan, it can cause a nightmare or bangungot. For ay and the Ilocano has four system. First is the kara kararua. Kararua equivalent to the equivalent to the Christian concept of the soul. And next is the kakarma. Kakarma represent the natural vigor, mind, and reason can be can live with frightened or be stolen, leading to insanity if not returned. And next is aniwaas. Aniwaas can leave the body during sleep. Waking up during its travels can cause insanity or insane. And last is the araria. The liberated soul of the dead visiting the relatives and friends to ask for prayer or fulfillness unfulfilled duties. Unfinished unfinished duties. Ibanag and Yabanag, who inhabits the province of Cagayan in Isabela and Nova Vizcaya, has a distinction between bagi, or as known as body, and ik, ikarurua as soul. The soul the soul has physical characteristic and provides distinction, but can exist independently of the body. Next is the Hanunuo Mangyan of Mindoro, believes in the plurality of souls. For instance, they have karadua, tao, or human soul, and karadua manok is chicken soul, and karadua baboy is a pig soul, and karadua kote is cat soul, and karadua hipon is shrimp soul. The karadua or soul can separate from the body during sleep, with dreams reflecting its experience. And next is the Tagbawa. Tagbawa of Central and Northern Palawan believes that people have one true soul, or kiara lua, and five secondary souls. The kiara dua the kiara lua is given at birth by the god Magindusa. The secondary souls are located in both hands and feet, while there also one in the head just below the air hole, or alimpoyo. And last is ethnic the ethnic tribes of Bukidnon believes in the Gimukod. According to their custom, there are two types of Gimukod, the one in the right hand and the one in the left hand. The Gimukod in the right hand is a good soul, and the one in the left hand is a bad soul. The the right hand soul is associated with life, health, activity, and joy. The left hand soul is the course of liter liturgy, liter liturgy, pain, and illness.
Rituals and ceremonies. A ritual is a ceremony or action performed in a customary way. Rituals may be prescribed by the tradition of community, including a religious community. Rituals include not only the worship rites and sacraments of organized religions in cults, but also rites of passage, atonement and purification rites, oaths of allegiance, dedication ceremonies, coronation, presidential, inaugurals, marriage, funerals, perhaps in all kinds of human activities. So like sa rituals or before ta mag ano unsa man natong mga activities ga pray ta right, that's an example of rituals. For example, pag nagikasal sa igaunon is na sila way na ilahang kuan na sila ihalad na manok or something nga ning ana. The next one is, where does ritual originate? These are the general approaches to theories about the nature and origin of rituals are origin approach, functional approach, and history of religious approach. The origin approach was the earliest form to explain ritual. The basic premise of this approach is that ritual behavior was part of the human evolution. And these are the classification of rituals. Number one, imitative. Next, positive and negative. Third is sacrificial. And fourth is life crisis. These are called imitative rituals because these are the pattern after myths and the ritual repeats the myths or aspects of the myth. For example, Filipinos make noises at the strike of 12 every New Year. This practice actually based on Chinese myth. Avoidance is the best description for a negative ritual. Sacrificial rituals are seen as the earliest form of religion. The basic characteristics of life crisis ritual is the transition of one mode or stage of life into another.